You're listening to Swift News, your daily news briefing in just 10 minutes. This is episode 55, and it's June 27, 2025. Let's get into today's stories. And welcome to the deep dive. We're going beyond just the headlines from today's briefing, trying to really pull out the key insights and maybe some surprising connections for you.
Exactly. And today, we've got quite a mix. We're looking at some big global shifts, diplomacy, economic trends, but also tech breakthroughs, and importantly, some really inspiring human stories, too.
Great. So let's start on that global stage. India at the SCO summit, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The defense minister made a pretty strong statement on anti-terrorism, right? Mentioning that 2025 Pooch attack specifically.
Yes, and that specificity is really quite significant. Referencing Pooch directly, it's not just rhetoric. It seems like India is really trying to, push for concrete action, maybe hold members more accountable, especially on issues hitting close to home.
So it's about setting a clear agenda within that group.
Precisely. It signals a more assertive stance, making its own security concerns a central part of the conversation in a forum like the SCO. It's a way to demand more than just general condemnation of terror.
Okay, interesting. Now, shifting over to another big summit, NATO in The Hague, former President Trump called it transformational for Ukraine-Russia peace efforts. That word, transformational, it's pretty loaded.
It absolutely is. And coming from Trump, well, it could mean a few things, couldn't it? It might signal a genuine shift, perhaps towards a different kind of deal framework.
Or maybe it's more about the claim of transformation.
That's also very possible. It could be about setting the stage for a deal he can sell as a major win, regardless of the finer details or long-term consequences. It certainly puts pressure on everyone involved, Kyiv, Moscow, NATO allies, to figure out what this transformation actually entails.
Right, it forces a reaction. Meanwhile, there's this urgent call from the UN about Gaza immediate ceasefire, release of hostages, highlighting the dire humanitarian need. We hear these calls often. What's the real impact?
It's a tough question. These UN demands, they don't always bring immediate results, obviously. But they are vital. They keep the humanitarian crisis in the spotlight. They establish international norms, and they build diplomatic pressure over time.
So they chip away, even if it's slow.
Kind of. They provide a framework, a moral high ground, and leverage for future actions or accountability, even if the immediate relief feels agonizingly slow compared to the need.
Got it. Okay, let's look at something else impacting people directly. Travel. The U.S. now requiring social media handles for visa applications. And they're warning omissions could lead to denial. What are the implications here?
Well, it really dives into the intersection of personal privacy and global mobility. It reflects a much broader trend, where our digital footprint is becoming increasingly part of official scrutiny.
So what you post online could directly impact your ability to travel internationally.
Essentially, yes. It raises big questions about transparency, about what's considered relevant information, and how people manage their online presence knowing it might be reviewed for something like a visa.
Definitely something for travelers to be aware of. And just quickly before we move on, a heads up about Thailand. Looks like major anti-government protests are expected tomorrow, June 28th.
Right, challenging the prime minister. Just a snapshot of internal political dynamics playing out there.
Okay, let's switch gears now to economics and tech. Global markets seem pretty buoyant. Sensex up 600 points, NASDAQ gained 2%, driven by Middle East stability optimism.
Yeah, that's the narrative. And it's fascinating how closely markets track geopolitical sentiment. When stability, or even just the perception of stability, increases in a key region like the Middle East, investors tend to get more confident.
And that explains the dip in gold, down to 98,500 per 10 grams, people moving away from safe haven.
Exactly. Gold typically thrives on uncertainty. So when you see equities rise and gold fall together like this, it strongly suggests a risk-on mood. Investors feel comfortable enough to chase growth rather than hide in safety.
Interesting. Now, looking at India's domestic economy, this public sector undertaking, PSU, market cap surge, 57 lakh crore over 5 years. That's huge.
It's a staggering number. And it really speaks volumes, doesn't it? It suggests a major reappraisal of the role of state-owned enterprises in India's growth story, particularly in driving big infrastructure projects. REC Limited's new subsidiary is mentioned as a key part of that.
So the public sector is driving growth, not just the private sector?
It seems to be a core part of the strategy. And you see concrete examples like the big NTPC power plant in Bihar, 3,300 megawatts, starting full operations July 1st. That state capacity delivering major infrastructure.
A significant energy boost for the region. Now, shifting to global competition, electric vehicles. China's EV exports are up 12%. That must be putting pressure on traditional automakers worldwide.
Oh, absolutely. It's intensifying competition dramatically. It forces established players in, Europe, the US, Japan, Korea to accelerate their own EV strategies and potentially rethink their manufacturing and supply chains.
How they adapt will be key, won't it?
Definitely. It raises big questions about trade dynamics, innovation speed, and ultimately consumer choice and pricing in the EV market globally.
Okay, from cars on the ground to space. India's astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla is on the ISS working on Axiom 4 experiments, specifically microgravity tech.
Yes, testing technologies in that unique environment. It's part of that continuous push for off-world research. And, sometimes the breakthroughs from microgravity research have really surprising applications back here on Earth.
Always exciting to see progress there. Though speaking of technology and safety, Air India grounding 20 Boeing 787-8s seems a crash probe found software issues.
Right. A stark reminder of how critical software reliability is, especially in aviation. Passenger safety has to be paramount, so grounding the aircraft is the necessary, if difficult, step.
Absolutely. And looking further ahead, technology-wise, Japan's hit a milestone in 6G research, aiming for a 2030 rollout.
Yeah, the race for the next generation of connectivity is well underway.
What could 6G even mean? We barely have 5G fully rolled out everywhere.
Well, it's not just about faster speeds, although that's part of it. 6G is expected to enable potentially revolutionary applications. Think truly seamless integration of physical and digital worlds, advanced AI, maybe even things like holographic communication or brain-computer interfaces down the line.
Wow, so really fundamental changes.
That's the promise. It could underpin entirely new industries and transform how we live and work. Still early days, of course, but the research targets are ambitious.
Okay, let's move to our final segment. Culture, environment, and human resilience. First up, a massive cultural event in India, the Jagannath Ratha Yatra.
Yes, underway now, drawing millions of devotees in Puri and Ahmedabad. It's just an incredible display of faith and community, uniting people across the country.
The scale is just immense, isn't it?
It truly is. These kinds of traditions have such deep cultural roots and showcase the power of shared belief to bring vast numbers of people together.
And speaking of national spirit, a quick mention for Cricket India's test team moving up to 5th in the ICC rankings, partly thanks to Rishabh Pant's form.
It'd be a good news for sports fans there.
But alongside these celebrations, we have some harsh environmental realities hitting hard. Intense monsoons, cloudbursts in Himachal Pradesh claiming lives.
Yeah, sadly 5 lives lost, and warnings are still active.
Heavy rains, flood alerts in Rajasthan too, affecting, 150,000 people?
It's devastating. And these extreme weather events, they seem to be getting more frequent, more intense. It really underscores the immediate human cost of changing climate patterns.
How are communities supposed to cope with this becoming the new normal?
That's the critical question, isn't it? It demands urgent focus on adaptation, on building resilience, better infrastructure, early warning systems, disaster response. It puts immense strain on local resources.
It's a huge challenge, but it's not all grim news on the environmental front, right? We saw some positive steps globally.
Absolutely. It's important to highlight those too. Canada's solar expansion, now powering 500,000 homes, that's significant progress in renewable adoption.
And Brazil's reforestation efforts in the Amazon.
Planting 2 million trees this year alone. That's a massive conservation effort, showing large-scale restoration is possible. These actions offer real hope and practical models for others.
It shows what can be done. And finally, let's end on some truly inspiring individual stories. These really stood out.
They really did. That Kenyan scientist with the low-cost water purifier reaching 10,000 households.
The Indian teacher's digital literacy program empowering 7,000 students in Bihar.
The Brazilian farmer boosting yields with sustainable irrigation.
And the U.S. doctor's mobile clinic serving 4,000 people in flood-hit areas. Just incredible impact from individuals.
What's so powerful about these, I think, is how they demonstrate local solutions to pressing problems. It's innovation and compassion meeting real-world needs directly.
It's grassroots change making a tangible difference.
Exactly. And these stories, they offer blueprints. They show ingenuity isn't confined to big labs or corporations. It's everywhere, driven by dedicated people making a difference in their communities, and that resonates globally.
So bringing it all together then, we've spanned the globe: diplomacy, markets, tech, environment, individual action. What's the final thought for our listeners to mull over?
Well, maybe consider how all these threads, they might seem separate, but they're really woven together, aren't they? Geopolitics impacts markets, technology impacts the environment, and vice versa. Human resilience responds to all of it. So how does seeing these connections, understanding this intricate tapestry, help us navigate our complex world and maybe even appreciate our own role within it?
A lot to think about there. That's your world in 10 minutes with Swift News. From global summits to inspiring innovations, we keep you informed and inspired. Join us tomorrow for episode 56 and follow us on X to share your thoughts on today's headlines. Stay curious, stay informed. This is Swift News, signing off.